Yeah, look at this little root. Ugh, this hurts me. Look at that bundle. So the stem is all shriveled up here. That will become a time-lapse video. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Carly and this is actually my very first long-form YouTube video, so thanks for being here. Today I have a bunch of plant chores that I need to get done during my son's nap time. Hopefully I can get it all done before he wakes up. I'm actually pregnant with my second, if you noticed the little baby bump. I was not feeling well for the first couple months. My plants definitely got neglected, so I'm hopefully going to remedy that today. The first thing that I need to do today is check on one of my time-lapse videos to see if it's done filming. Come on. I have been filming this leaf unfurling for several days now, so I need to check the camera and see if it is pretty much done unfurling. You can kind of tell when you stop the video if the leaf has kind of stopped moving. I just use iPhones to do my filming. Let's see, it's gonna load. So yeah, you can see the leaf is really not moving anymore, so I'm gonna call this one done. I will take the camera and download it to the computer, and that will become a time-lapse video. The next thing I need to tackle is this shelf. I have been neglecting it quite a lot. I have a time-lapse going over here, and I would like to reorganize a lot of these plants. And I need to propagate the string of hearts because this is, or not string of hearts, sorry, string of pearls, because this has absolutely just gotten out of control. It's also grown into the shelf over here, so I can't actually pick it up, so I'm gonna have to cut it. But I also can't disturb the time lapse, so I'm gonna have to be really careful over here. But I want to pot these two up together, and I also have this Monstera Albo that I need to pot up. It's been rooting in water for a long time. I need to go get the pots for those, and actually the pot that I want to put the pearls in, I need to drill a hole in, so I will have to probably do that first. Here's the pot that I want to put my string of pearls in. So it's kind of a more shallow pot, and there will be room in the pot for the pearls to kind of grow around and root in as they go. It looks like someone who owned this before me tried to do the nail method. I think where you like put it underwater and like poke the nail through, and that worked, but these holes are really small. So I want to put at least one big drainage hole in the side, because these are straight on the bottom, so if it's just sitting flat on a surface, it's not really going to drain very well. So I kind of want to put a hole on the side right here so it'll be allowed to drain out the side even if it's sitting flat. This is a diamond tile drill bit. This is just the one that I've always used to do this. I think there's, you know, some other different ways you can do this, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm going to use. With this drill bit, you need water to keep it from heating up and cracking this ceramic. So I'm just going to pour some water in here, and when it gets too cloudy, I will empty it and I'll pour some more in. I think I'm going to go for maybe like one of those angles. It'll get started and it will kind of right itself in the direction that it wants to go. Let's see what damage I did with that. That actually went further than I thought it would have. Okay, so I will replace the water and we'll start again. All right, there we go. So now the water will be able to flow out the side, even if it's flat on a surface. But I have the piece stuck in my drill bit, so I will have to get that out somehow. It came out. I just hit it on the ground. All right, back inside to clean this shelf. But first, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Palm Street. This is my large form mint monstera that I got on the Palm Street app. You can find great deals on wishlist plants and more, all within the app. Palm Street connects you with independent sellers offering things like rare plants, crystals, handmade goods, and ceramics, like this one-of-a-kind Narikomi pot that my monstera is in, or this beautiful hand-painted pot that my Hoya is clearly loving. I love that I can discover new small businesses and rare plant sellers all in one place, much like an online main street. You can participate in live sales where you get to see and interact with the seller in the chat. You can see the actual plant or item they're selling, and you can ask questions about it. And don't miss out on the giveaways. Live sale giveaways are so much fun. Palm Street turns a cold online transaction into an experience, like walking into a virtual plant shop on Main Street and talking to the business owner face to face. If live sales aren't your speed, you can also shop the seller's buy it now or purge listings. New users get a $5 credit and several other new user perks. Join using my code below, and thanks to Palm Street for sponsoring this video. The string of pearls were my top priority. They had just gotten out of control. It's wild how much they grew in just 1 year. This was the same plant in February of 2024, if you can believe it. It had been severely neglected in a forgotten windowsill and was basically just wasting away to nothing. Mom life puts plants in the back burner a lot, and this is one that really suffered. I propagated it on May 4th, 2024, and I separated it into 2 pots, one of variegated and one of regular. And in just under a year, it's hard to believe that these are the same plants. Okay, I think that's about as good as this one gets, as far as untangling it. So now I need to tackle the other one, and this one I am going to try not to disturb my time lapse, so I might have to cut it over here because it's actually growing through my shelf. This one does not seem to be quite as tangled as the other one, so I think I'm just going to leave this one as it is and not try to untangle it. Okay, here is the finished product. Everything is nice and clean. I did not deal with that today. That will be another day. But I've got everything, shelves clean, reorganize things a little bit so I can get to them easier. And then my string of pearls propagations are going to go back there. And then the new pot of string of pearls is going to go probably right here. And yeah, everything is looking much better than it was. And I think I did not disturb this time lapse too much. So now I need to go propagate the string of pearls and put it in its new pot. I really had not realized that these string of pearls had gotten as long as they were. That actually explains a lot because I was having to water them really, really often because the pearls were kind of going dry. You can see these little crispies. They were very thirsty, and so that makes a lot of sense considering how long they are. And I need to pot up this guy. So I will go do that now. First things first, I am going to trim these so it'll make it easier for me to pot it up and so it won't be so unruly. I am going to cut off all these long strands just because the place that this plant is going into is not a place where I can have it trailing very easily, but maybe this summer when I bring it outside, I will be able to let it trail and be long and beautiful. But for now, I'm gonna chop because I actually want to propagate it so that I can sell the propagations. So I will show you that process as well. This one is pretty much all variegated pearls. The other one is a mix of non-variegated and variegated pearls. Look at how many pieces are coming off of this one. So the pearls are actually, like the strands are sticky, and so they really kind of stick together. Okay. That one's really unruly. Okay, what is going on here? There we go. Okay, I think I'm gonna have, I was gonna say I need a front and a back to this plant so that I can easily orient it in its new pot. So I kind of want to organize these strands a little bit with that in mind so that it looks nice. And I'm going to cut away anything that doesn't look nice, like this. Just doesn't look very nice, so we'll cut that one. Okay, I think I'm happy with that one. So now we'll move on to the all green one. Wow. Now this one is just super unruly. I'm just gonna go for like a haircut kind of chop and just because I already spent way too long trying to untangle these. The only thing I am gonna do is sort out the ones that are variegated and the not variegated ones, because I will have to do that anyway. So I'll chop that one. And then the rest of these, ugh, this hurts me, but I do not have the time or the energy to try and salvage this, so we're just gonna do the chop. Look at that bundle. Ugh, the sap on this is really sticky. Okay, let's see where we're at with this. I might want to go a little more. I just want it to look less unruly, I think, so we will chop more. And this is so full, it has so many strands that when I pot this up, it's gonna just go crazy, especially since I just chopped it. Because the best way to promote growth on these is to chop them. Okay. How are we looking now? That's doing a lot better, I think. All right, I'm happy with that. Here's our pot. Here's the soil mix I'm using. Lots of perlite, lots of bark in here, very airy, chunky mix. And these are pretty shallow, and string of pearls roots are pretty fine. So they don't like a ton of like thick, large pieces of substrate. It's like big, huge pieces of bark. See how fine those roots are? And there's really not a ton of them for so much plant. Let's see how I want these in here. One thing I do know is I definitely want to put the plant at the back, so the base at the back, and try not to bury these. Okay, I will have to untangle this when I'm done, but it's okay. Okay, so I've got the plant at the back, and then what I'm gonna do is fill this in with dirt here, and then I'll kind of flop this over forward so that all this can root into the front part. Okay, now I can flop it all back over. I'll try to do that in a somewhat orderly manner here. So we got the variegated ones on one side and the regular ones on the other. The regular ones definitely grow way more vigorously than the variegated ones for obvious reasons. And I'm definitely going to, as much as I can, try and put these strands in contact with this soil so that they will root. I'm gonna try and bury some of them as well. Let's see, we'll send this one this way, kind of curl it around in there. I might come back later once I'm done repotting it and kind of make the strands how I want them to be. Because I don't want this to be the front, I want this to be the front, so I kind of want them to grow this way. I might just cut those off. Okay, so I will water this in, and then when I put it in the grow light, under the grow light, I'll make sure the grow light is towards the front so the strands will grow this way, how I want it to. And eventually I will have a very big, beautiful string of pearls pot. Okay, next I need to pot up this guy. He has been in water for a while. I almost killed it, actually. My audio cut out for the rest of this clip, so let me just show you what happened with footage I took for a different video. Oops. I had this Albo cutting outside in this jar, and at some point the wind knocked it over and it was behind this bench and I didn't see it. And it's gotten pretty cold and it was out of the water, so the stem is all shriveled up here. I'm gonna see if I can save this. I'm gonna actually chop the stem so that it will have a fresh cut so that it can take up some water because it's really dehydrated right now and this root looks dead. Okay, let me see if I can show this to you. So the bottom is not rotting, it's just dry. So I'm just gonna cut right here, just above this brown spot. This is a root node right there, so that we wanna keep that. But yeah, I'm just gonna make as small a cut as I can make that there will be like still green stem underneath it. Okay, so that looks good. And then I'll put this directly in water. So if it's gonna live, what I should see over the next couple of days is this stem start to rehydrate. It definitely needs water before it will start looking any better. So I wanted to get some water in through that cut end there. By day 2, the stem was almost completely rehydrated, and by day 5, you can see the roots starting to grow, and after that, it just took off. You'll see here in a second that I had a fungus gnat problem in my house that I have since taken care of using some BT drops that I will have linked down below for you if you want to check those out. Then on day 31, I added more water with some nutrients to help the plant, which also caused an algae bloom. I fixed that by adding some hydrogen peroxide to the water, which killed the algae. I definitely could have potted it up at this point, but I just didn't have time that day. So here we are 20 days later for a total of 57 days in water. Time to pot it up. I'm using a chunky soil mix made from 50% orchid bark, 40% perlite, and 10% of whatever regular potting mix I have on hand. I use that for all of my monsteras and most of my other plants. So the tricky part about this is that there's actually a front and a back to monsteras, and this one grew to the left and towards the back of the plant. So if I pot it up correctly, the way that it should go, this is how the leaf is going to look. But this is the front of the plant. So it'll correct itself eventually, but I am going to go ahead and do future me a favor and pot it up in the correct direction. And I normally try not to bury the cut end of my monstera propagations so they don't rot under the soil. Usually with the way that they grow, I'm able to kind of angle them in the pot so that the roots are under the soil, but the cut end is still above the soil. And that usually involves the soil line being somewhat diagonal in the pot. But with the way that this cutting was growing, it gave me no choice but to bury the cut end. The stem rotting under the soil is really only a concern for me with new propagations like this one, not really with established plants. This one should be just fine. I'm just watering these in using my little pump sprayer. After this, I won't water the pearls again for a while because they have a lot of pot to grow into. I'll wait until the pearls are clearly thirsty before watering them again. But the Albo, on the other hand, I want to keep that more wet for a while as it acclimates from water to soil. I'm gonna refill the sprayer and then check to see if any plants need water. This is the fertilizer I've been using for the last 5 years on all my plants. And this is the BT drops or BTI drops that I've been using to get rid of fungus gnats. And BT stands for Bacillus thuringiensis, or however you pronounce it, which is a bacteria that attacks fungus gnat and mosquito larvae. I'll have both of those linked down below. My son woke up from his nap, so it is now after bedtime, so I'm going to pick up where I left off. Doing some watering now with the pump sprayer. I pot up pretty much most of my monsteras in terracotta, and one thing I love about that is that you can kind of just feel the pot, and if the side of the pot feels moist, then it probably does not need water yet. But if it feels really dry, then it is time to water, and that is the case for this one. So we're gonna go ahead and just water it until I start seeing water come out through the drainage hole. And I removed the tip off of this pump sprayer nozzle thingy because it makes it come out a lot faster, but I can still aim where I want it. Okay, finally getting around to potting up the string of pearls propagations. String of pearls are kind of my jam. A lot of people really struggle with them, but when I'm not totally neglecting them, I really don't have any problems with growing or propagating them. I think as long as they're getting enough light and have a well-draining soil, it's hard to overwater them. All I'm doing here is just placing the strands so that the stem is touching the soil but isn't totally buried, and just filling the pot with cuttings. They just have to be sitting on top of the soil, and that's it really. Normally, when I propagate string of pearls, I'll look for root nodes that are already growing, like these. You can see this little root node there. There's one here, another one here, and another one there. This piece would root really, really fast, like within a couple of days. As soon as it hits moisture in the soil, that root will start growing. I didn't find a ton of root nodes on any of these cuttings, but I didn't want to throw them out. They'll just take a lot longer to root than this one would. I'm probably gonna keep these dry for a little bit, and they will start producing the root nodes because they know that they need water because they're now cut off from the plant. Since none of them really had any root nodes on them to begin with, they won't be able to suck up any water anyway, and the stems might just rot. So I'm just gonna wait maybe a week before I water these and then let them start trying to produce some little root nodes while they're dry, and then I will water them thoroughly and put this top piece on here so they'll have their own little like humidity container. Okay, this is a reverted mint monstera, and I am actually going to chop off all of the reverted pieces. I've been trying to make sure every node activates on here so that I can make sure that it is truly reverted. I think there's one last node that I'm trying to activate on here. So I'm gonna cut off all this new growth, and that should activate that one last node. So we'll see if it is truly reverted or if that one, actually I think you can see it right there, that one last node might have some color on it. I don't know. And actually this piece is spent. So this only had 2 nodes on it, so I actually don't even need this leaf because it's not even connected to the piece that I want to try to get to activate. So I can take this out entirely. Okay, we'll see what happens. I am editing the video right now, and I just wanted to pop in and give you a little update on some things. Here are the string of pearls propagations that I did. All of these are rooted in, like you can see. So here's the end of this cutting. Look at this little root that's just like going down into the pot. Here's a little root right there. Like if you see how kind of shiny all this new growth is, and like it looks, you know, pretty plump. It doesn't look dehydrated anymore. It's like you see how shiny all that is. I can tell that that is rooted in. And let's see. Oh yeah, look at this little root. So we've got some roots coming out the bottom. I took the humidity lid off a few days ago. Since these are rooted in, they don't quite need the humidity anymore. So I'm gonna start letting them dry out and then I'll be watering them normally. These ones back here I still have covered. I need to check and see if they're ready. And then here is the big pot. So look at all this shiny new growth come in here, and it's already trying to start trailing again. Just look at how much new growth is on here. So like all of these little shiny bits are brand new. Just in the last, like, I think it's been a month maybe. Let me move this out of the way. Come here, Albo. So this, let me get it out of here. This is the Albo cutting, and it seems to be doing just fine. It put out a new leaf, and let's see if there's any roots we can see. Yeah, look at that. Look at those roots coming out the bottom. So I've been keeping it pretty wet, and now since I see those roots growing and this new leaf is growing, I'll start to water it normally. But I'm a little disappointed because this is really low variegation, almost reverted actually. So I did all that work to save this and I think it's reverted. But we'll see what the next leaf looks like. You can see some little variegation here. I won't give up on it yet, but this leaf is really cute. When I was potting it up, I was talking about how this was the front of the plant. You see what I mean? How this leaf is growing that way. This leaf is now going to go that way. So this is the front and the other side is the back. And this leaf is just kind of going in a weird direction, but it's growing in the correct direction now. So the next leaf will be kind of growing this way. And here is the mint monstera that was reverted. This is the one little growth point that started growing. I still cannot tell actually if it is reverted or not. It probably is. So there's probably no variegation on that. But that little leaf is just so tiny, it's very difficult to see if there is any variegation on it or not. But I'm gonna wait maybe a couple more leaves before I call it. So yeah, that's the update on that. And it doesn't look like any other nodes are growing. So I think that's the last one. All right, here's my squeaky clean and more organized plant shelf. I don't feel stressed out anymore when I look at it, so I would say that is mission accomplished. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and drop me a comment down below to say hi and let me know what you'd like to see next. Bye!